You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Hi, my name is Blake, and I have just a quick note before we get started. Actually, it's more like a recommendation because this podcast is an immersive audio storytelling experience. Part fact, part fantasy. It's best that you listen with headphones on, imagination on, and everything else turned off. Oh, and by the way, my friend Dylan Thuras is going to be taking the guest reins for today's episode. Welcome to Abandoned, the All-American Ruins podcast.
Men blasting open the hard rock core of the earth. Men looking beneath the surface for what lies hidden below. Americans at work, wresting from the earth's unyielding rock the primary materials on which to build a civilization.
And we will just go until we can't go anymore. All right, through here.
Dylan doesn't seem too concerned about getting caught. Shouldn't be, he's the leader of this voyage, and he's been here before. He guides us up to a path, past the kiln parking lot, which includes an abandoned shack. Our first pit stop. Inside, I find an old empty packet of Winston cigarettes, which I determine later are from the mid-1950s, when the jingle, "Winston tastes good like a cigarette should," was everybody's earworm.
It's new Winston, the easy-drawing filter cigarette that tastes good like a cigarette should.
Winston, tastes real good, rich and full like a cigarette should. Brings real.
While I inspect the artifact, Dylan marvels at the architecture.
I gotta say, I just love it here.
Dude, I just can't believe I didn't know any of this was here. This is wild.
You have not seen anything yet, Blake. Just you wait.
Blake and I took this trip nearly 2 years ago now. And we were each making creative work about ruins. And I think probably each struggling with that work in different ways. But we both really do like exploring abandoned spaces, which is at least part of how we became friends. This is right in our backyard in upstate New York. And so to get there, we climbed up a hill and under a fence. We ran through a solar panel farm we were not supposed to be in, through a bunch of thorn bushes. It was fun.
The earth is dead, but the sky looks teal as Dylan and I wander across the soaked brown carcasses of plants and weeds, scattered out as far as the eye can see. It's the first warm day in months. In his beat gray knit cap, Dylan saunters slightly ahead of me while I lollygag my ancient wannabe Timberland Nikes through the sludge of the corpse terrain.
I do, in fact, saunter.
We have a single destination in mind, though I don't know it at the time. A document storage house. At least that's what I decide to call it once I see it for the first time. In my upstate New York town. An expedition that starts at a modern, very real document storage facility and tiptoes past an old cement plant operation complete with a lengthy row of silos that are smushed up against one another, about a tenth of a mile from the strange document storage house in the middle of the woods.
This filter cigarette really tastes like a cigarette. King-size Winston brings flavor back to filter smoking. And Winstons are easy drawing. There's no effort to pop. Winston's minor filter works so effectively, yet millions less.
Blake's work has always had a more personal, memoirish style than mine. We both love ruins, but for him, they are these jumping off points into emotional and spiritual exploration. I am from the Midwest, and I don't share my emotions, at least not quite in the same way. I don't know, like the quirky fact kid that you knew in 4th grade? Like knows a lot of facts? Yeah, that was me. They called me Encyclopedia Thuras. It's part of why I wanted to bring Blake on this particular trip. I wanted to share this place with him, including, its history, its facts. Why was it here?
It's filled with empty storage boxes. It has a ton of rusted old equipment. It's all the remnants of this old cement industry up here.
And in my fantasy, they're from the 1940s and 50s, although I can't know for sure, which really isn't the point anyway. The point is to let my imagination run free. The healing practice that started when I was a kid at an abandoned dairy farm in my Colorado hometown, 30 plus years before.
The entire property has this kind of, rich industrial and I would say sort of cultural history, woven into it.
Which isn't really my focus, for now. Currently, I'm skirting reality and enjoying a full reverie of espionage, mystery, and intrigue. I always dive into my research after a traipse about an abandoned space.
I kind of inadvertently built my life around this, being the kid with the facts. To be honest, I built a pretty deep sense of self around it. You don't have to talk about your feelings when you're talking about the history of cement. You know what I mean?
From the rock is made cement. Add sand, gravel, and water, and cement becomes concrete. From this, the builders erect giant skyscrapers, construct mighty dams, lay down roads, and build the maze of interchanges that keep the stream of traffic flowing across a busy nation. The builder knows that back of him stands the cement maker.
Dylan and I were at different places in our creative lives when we first met. For a long time, Dylan had been producing work about ruins and exploration, and I was just getting started. But it was exciting to meet each other because I quickly realized that I wasn't the only weird kid in the universe with a lifetime hobby of exploring ruins, places that look like they've been raptured.
Blake and I are neighbors, and we live in ruins. And I don't mean this in some kind of poetic way. I just mean where we live is absolutely filled with the remnants of what was once a thriving boomtown, this massive mining industry. The houses on my main street were once mostly brothels and bars, and they served these itinerant miners who were there to dig limestone out of the ground.
For most of the 140 years since the invention of artificial cements presented the modern world with a new building material, concrete has been used for structures above grade in the United States.
I came to the area in 2016 with a 2-year-old and a baby on the way. We needed more space, but I was also running away a little bit. I think creative people think a lot about the birth of new ideas, but less about how they change over time, or even how they end. When they stop being the thing that you loved at the start. Creative people love to turn art into businesses, only to discover that running a business is very different from creating art. Of course, I couldn't tell Blake any of this, it's a sort of dispiriting perspective, at least a complex one. He was getting started. He was finding his own creative path. But anyway, one good way to avoid these irritating, difficult questions was to run away upstate, hide out in all of these ruins, and just explore these giant stone kilns, these abandoned factories. All of these ruins, which were once part of this industrial might that built American infrastructure. At least until they didn't.
But because it was first used crudely as a substitute for stone in foundations, retaining walls, machinery bases, silos, blocks, and small dams, its coarse, uneven surfaces had little appeal to architects accustomed to dressed lumber, quarried stone, and brick. In fact,
the Brooklyn Bridge, the Statue of Liberty, parts of the U.S. Capitol, these were all what this cement helped build. All of this cement from upstate New York, from the town of Rosendale. This whole region was somewhat built around it. And then something better came along.
Cement plants are built near the sources of their raw materials, and this limestone quarry provides one of the 3 or 4 basic ingredients of cement. Other materials that go into cement include silica, alumina, iron oxide, gypsum, and shale.
By 1970, every cement mine in the region had been shuttered. All the infrastructure had been left to rot. And they left behind these really beautiful remains.
The ancient Romans made cement of volcanic ash from the slopes of Mount Vesuvius. Inside the rotating kiln of today, a man-made volcano rages. The man who tends the kiln is dwarfed by its enormity, but not awed by its fury. His job is to
You know that joke about men thinking about the Roman Empire? The joke is probably aimed at me. But I think often about the people after Rome had already collapsed. These medieval peasants who lived in wooden shacks they built inside of these great crumbling Roman fortresses. People who couldn't really say who had built these monuments, only that they provided some shelter. New empires were being built elsewhere, as these people hid out in the crumbling ruins of the former empire.
As Dylan walks me underneath a couple of the forgotten silo towers, it dawns on me that I'm living out a childhood fantasy of living near the Catskill Mountains. As a kid, I watched on repeat a VHS tape that boasted 3 of Will Vinton's claymation shorts, including his Oscar-nominated adaptation of Rip Van Winkle. It's where he says,
"There's magic in the Catskill Mountains, and folks who lived here felt it all around them."
The instant I heard that, I was hooked on the idea of someday visiting the Catskills.
The Indians claimed the mountains were home to their spirits, and the legend of the early Dutch settlers tells of the ghosts of Henry Hudson and his crew who roam these mountains still.
Not in a million years could I have pictured myself actually living here among that kind of magic. Will Vinton wasn't wrong. It's a place where you can totally play pretend as a full-ass grown-up.
Around here, they still tell the story of a man who met the magic of the Catskills head on. His name was Rip Van Winkle.
When I'm hiking through the wilderness, en route to any given ruin, inside my head, I am definitely engaged in conversations with ghosts who have been laid up to rest in those mountains.
Technically, it is called a mature dissected plateau. It is a flat chunk of land that comes up out of the ground and then is eroded by water over many millennia. Look, I told you I am a facts guy. Sorry, I cannot help myself.
See, those ghosts tell me secrets about places just like this one. Dylan leads me underneath the body of one of the smokestacks. The floor below is filled with ice, partially frozen solid, partially ready to crack beneath. There are pads of cement every so often, mixed in with the man-placed pallets and other materials left behind to help explorers like Dylan and me hop through.
Just be careful.
We don't have to crouch, but it feels like we do.
And now, the house.
Wait, what do you mean the house?
Yeah. You'll see. It's got a bunch of, it's got a ton of old storage boxes in it. You'll see.
Perhaps it's my recent rediscovery of Hitchcock's espionage films, including Foreign Correspondent, or Sabotage, or Torn Curtain. But my brain has already stirred up a story in my head about the secret document storage facility. I somehow dreamed this is how today was going to turn out. Sure, ancient cement facilities are totally cool, but an abandoned haunted house in the middle of the woods that's filled with empty metal boxes? Yes, please. We begin to make our pilgrimage to this final covert destination.
Oh, this is where the party happens.
I watched as Blake fully immersed himself in the space, doing this deep, creative play. I could see him building this new episode in real time. You know, over time, as you make work. You get better and better at it, and others can start to see through your creative eyes. And then creative success becomes this kind of shield against the world. This story about how what you make is who you are. This armor to wrap yourself in. I've seen the way that creative failure can make people bitter. You try to create and no one cares, no one listens, no one looks. To try to make stuff without an audience can be really lonely. Creative success has its own risks. You draw these really narrow lines around yourself. You start to fear change or reinvention. You start to make the thing that you think people want. But Blake was still in this beautiful space of pure exploration. To be honest, I think maybe I'm a little jealous.
Then suddenly, we're there. The haunted document storage house. It's a 3-story white building, indeed, a house in the middle of the woods. Well, at least to you. It might resemble a house, but to me, it's an abandoned document storage facility. Top secret, packed to the brim with empty metal boxes that are scattered throughout all 3 floors of the building, as well as the outside perimeter of the structure.
I think part of the reason Blake and I both like ruins is because you're forced to confront just how fleeting everything is. How temporary any accomplishment, any building, any legacy actually is. How every empire and every person is in some sense living inside of their own future ruin. All things end. Lives, buildings, creative ideas. Each has its own lifespan.
Curiously, against the backdrop of this oncoming imagination stomping ground, I hear the song Houses, Judy Collins' voice, made of liquid silver, billowing off the Catskills, though I can't see the actual mountains, or rather the mature, dissected plateau itself. We are in the middle of the woods, after all. I think about the officious politics of the American government on an international scale, and the voice of Allen Ginsberg pops into my head.
America, when will you be angelic? When will you take off your clothes? When will you look at yourself through the grave?
His poetry pinballs around in my brain as I pick up a rotted purchase order from October 25th, 1962. 25 years, and a day before I was born. It's laid across one of the many metal boxes strewn about the yard.
America, after all, it is you and I who are perfect, not the next world. Your machinery is too much for me. You made me want to be a saint.
I place the yellow scrap back onto the ground and step foot into the empty imagination palace, worn and withered from years of disuse.
Help. America, this is quite serious. America, this is the impression I get from looking in the television set. America, is this correct?
There's a slight draft, which is to be expected. It is still winter, after all, though today feels like late spring.
I'd better get right down to the job. It's true, I don't want to join the army or turn lathes in precision parts factories. I'm nearsighted and psychopathic anyway. America, I'm putting my queer shoulder to the wheel.
Becoming friends, watching Blake find his creative way, this new little coal in his hands, just blowing on it. I could feel the ways in which I had lost my own. He was at the start of one creative arc, needed support, encouragement. But I found myself nearing the end of mine and asking myself how to let go, how to walk away from the grand structures that you've built.
My focus lasers in on the piles of black storage boxes scattered throughout the house. Dozens and dozens of metal cases, askew, empty. As I poke around and marvel, I sense Dylan is ready to move on, and I know my time here is limited, so I make a break for as much of the house as I can get under my belt. I could spend hours inside this vacuum of time and space. In places like these, I can collect myself again amidst the chaos of the world and reflect on my part in it. It's like the weirdest sanctuary you've ever been to.
In the end, I never did figure it out, how to let go. I think if you look around carefully, you'll find a lot of people trapped by their own creations, occupying some increasingly abandoned house. Ultimately, my relationship with this particular creative project ended outside of my control, which at first felt like some great tragedy. But as time went on, became a strange sense of relief. And I'm trying to explain all this to Blake as we stand in this room full of artifacts yanked straight out of another lifetime, some 1950s newsroom, beautiful vintage adding machines, all the remains of someone else's long-forgotten life.
I think I spend so much time wandering around abandoned buildings because they help me reflect on where we've come from, where we are, and where we're headed, supported by an infinite imagination stepping in and helping to guide me through it all. These days, I'm not quite sure where we're headed, but listening to the voices of ghosts buried in the walls of abandoned buildings somehow helps soothe the fear of the great big unknown with a capital U.
It's a strange process to mourn a creative project. It's not a friend or a loved one or a family member, but its death has its own period of mourning. And meanwhile, I got to watch this new, beautiful creative project coming to life.
Just before I head out of the mysterious structure, I note a giant Sensomatic accounting device in the corner, another relic from the 1950s built by the borough's adding machine company. So I go over and push a few of the buttons.
From the very beginning, one of the powerful forces behind Burroughs' product development was the adding machine.
My mom always did call me a button pusher, both literally and figuratively. As I exit the house, clumsily...
Hey, stop! Excuse me.
Yeah, we got caught.
Excuse me, do you all not know how to read? The sign's posted everywhere. No trespassing. We've had quite a lot of trouble with trespassers. That's why we got these forest cameras.
A man in sweats with a sweet-faced dog has been following us. The man drones on about trespassing, but my brain is so far away.
I've chased so many idiots.
Something that gives me some, I don't know, hope, sense of, I don't know, something, is that the house I live in, the real house that I raised my kids in, its foundation is built from the stones, plucked from these cement ruins that surround us. These ruins that Blake and I both love exploring are what my life stands on.
I try to keep from smiling because I'm so full of energy and excitement, knowing that I've gotten to time travel again today and see a small part of the world most others never will. Wrapped up in the sounds of my imagination, of Judy Collins singing, Rip Van Winkle pontificating, and Allen Ginsberg poeting, echoing off the inclines of the distant, magical Catskill mature dissected plateau mountains.
A poet years ago said, "When the materials are all prepared, I swear to you the architects shall appear without fail. You shall be glorified in them." The poet spoke truth, for the cement makers can travel the land with pride in their hearts. The glory of their products is everywhere about them, and about us, for we too can share the glory of the cement makers whose skill and effort help keep our country great and strong.
If you're just tuning in, welcome to the 4th season of Abandoned, the All-American Ruins podcast. Join me every other week as I take you on an immersive sonic journey, recounting my expeditions of abandoned spaces across the United States, which I transform into fantastical audio experiences that allow you, dear listener, to dive into my imagination with me, or maybe inspire you to go out and use your own. If you don't want to miss it, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please remember, subscribe, rate, and review if you're up for it. Also, if you like to read or enjoy amateur photography, just know that each episode this season is adapted from the original All American Ruins blog, where you can catch up on more of my adventures. Just visit allamericanruins.com or follow me on Instagram at allamericanruins. This episode of Abandoned, the All American Ruins podcast, was written and hosted by Dylan and me, Blake File, with studio space courtesy of Radio Kingston, WKNY AM 1490 FM 1079 in Kingston, New York. Special thanks to my brilliant mom, Beth, for editing every blog post that I ever transformed into these audio adventures. And thank you, my friend, for taking the time to explore these abandoned spaces with me.